What's one of the biggest things we forget to do when we're recovering from burnout or illness? We've all had those times in life where either burnout has arrived and we've had to stop, or illness. Sometimes in life we've understood burnout is coming or illness is happening and we've allowed ourselves to stop. Other times it's been forced upon us. And yet one of the biggest things that we do once we're recovering from those immediacies of the situation is we often don't allow ourselves to come back and gradually reassert ourselves into the life that we want to have. We don't learn from our mistakes, understanding how we can have a healthy lifestyle, understanding how we can still get the best outcomes with our life in terms of productivity, in terms of the goals that we want to set, and still not be susceptible to falling endlessly into the trap of burnout. Getting burned out is sometimes an easy trap to fall into, and yet we can look at the symptoms and look at the triggers that can bring us down into that burnout situation. And sometimes burnout is forced upon us, and sometimes we can actually relieve the symptoms before it happens. And I've left a link in that for a video in the description below about burnout and the symptoms of it and how to relieve those and how best to get over burnout. But some of the times, one of the biggest things that we don't get and to understand is when we actually opening the door back into the life that we want to have, we have not learnt the lessons of what caused the burnout in the first place, and also how to best manage it into the future. So in this video, it's a really simple one. It's about making sure that we understand how not to keep endlessly falling back into burnout, and how we can actually grow how we want to grow, live into the future, rather than this endless cycle of having to rest, having to stop, and then going manically back into the way we did everything before, not learning lessons, not understanding what we need to do to make sure that we put a system in place that allows us to do as many things as we possibly can, grasp every last bit of ounce of life that we want to get going, and still remain healthy. And health is everything in the long run. If we don't have our health, we don't have anything. So in thinking about that, one of the biggest things we have to understand is when we're getting back out there, when we're getting back into the life that we want to recreate, the way we want to grasp onto it, the way we want to make sure that we can reach for our goals again, is understanding when we go back into, when we've left that period of having to rest from burnout or from illness, that we need to pace ourselves. It's not about going back into the full bedlam of life that we had before. And that's often the trap that we all have. When we fall into that dark hole of illness or burnout, we feel that loss of time, and we feel this expectation that we have to just get back out there and tick all the boxes off again and all the things that we've fallen behind with, and then we make the same mistakes that we've made every single time, and we fall into that trap, and that trap is just unrelenting because it keeps sucking us down, and then we try and work harder to get out of the same trap. So instead of falling back into that trap, let's look at the systems, let's look at what we can do, and with our thinking into how we can actually avoid doing that. So the first thing is being realistically having a look at why it happened. Why does burnout happen? Sometimes illness obviously arrives, but with burnout in particular, can we learn the lessons of that? Can we understand what led us to that burnout state? And sometimes that's quite confronting. Sometimes it's making sure, you know what, a lot of things are possible, but not everything is possible all at the same time. Making sure we can prioritize, making sure we understanding that if we've got 4 pots on a stove, but only 3 burners, we can only keep some of them going at the same time. So it's being realistic, it's being assertive almost with ourselves, and being honest with ourselves about what is possible at any one time. We must look at that bigger picture. We must understand sometimes the easiest thing to first start doing, and the first habit and the first system to put in place, is saying no to something at the beginning or the end of the day. This way we're starting to self-protect our energy. Our energy and our health are everything in the long run. If we don't have energy and health, we will endlessly fall into the trap of burnout. So making sure that we say no to something either at the beginning or the end of the day is sometimes the simplest way of keeping our energy stores under control, and also that helps with our anxiety rather than it always hitting the ground, that high adrenaline, high arousal level all day, every day. So making sure sometimes you can simply say no to something at the beginning or at the end of the day, it relieves that time pressure for having to constantly be on alert 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no rest. And yes, that can be quite confronting. And we looked at this in a different video in terms of the iceberg effect, where we can say yes to something, but we don't realize, yes, that might only be 1 hour in 3 weeks' time. However, the time requirements involved around that is a lot bigger than just that hour. The travel, the setting up of the events, the meetings that sometimes come around that event. And so sometimes 1 hour can equal 5 hours, can equal 7 hours. And it's making sure we understand that iceberg effect of just saying yes to something can actually have a big knock-on effect, whereas saying no has protected not only just the hour in question itself, but also protected the 5 or 6 hours that may be leading up to it or post it. If we're trying to understand all the things that build up and the system failures that we've had in coming into burnout, we've got to understand our resources in terms of our energy, in terms of our own time. Time is something we cannot trade. Time is something that you cannot get back, and health is definitely one of those things that once you've burnt through your health, then that is gone. Isn't it better to be kinder to yourself in the long run and being able to say no and able to say and pace yourself, and also being able to make sure that you take appropriate rests through the day if needed. So an understanding that if you are starting to feel fatigued, that you actually put yourself in a quiet place, that you understand you should allow yourself time to disconnect from the world and then reconnect if you need to. Being honest with yourself and pacing yourself is one of the biggest success stories of being able to come back from burnout or illness or injury. Any of these things require sometimes a good amount of lead time and pacing to get back into the life that you want to fulfill and the life that is importantly sustainable. So be honest with yourself, understand what you need, understand what your health needs, and understand who around you is helping make those things happen. I hope this little thought helps of making sure that you pace yourself back out of burnout, and that it allows you to be a healthier, long-lived person that is acquiring all the skills, all the goals that you want to in the long run. Good luck, be kind, and the most important person to be kind to is yourself. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe, and click on the link to the burnout video and also the link to the iceberg video, which is in the show notes. But hopefully you saw it in the captions above. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.